Good evening and welcome to Plants and Pets. Once again we're outside of our studios and we're visiting a local greenhouse, and as you'll see around us there's lots of colors. Spring is here. It's well underway, and I would like to thank my guest George Grypma for inviting us out. And thank you, George.
You're most welcome, Eileen.
It's wonderful to be out here in the middle of spring.
Right.
It's really
Right.
lots of color. And today we'd like to talk about vegetables, George. I've counted on the calendar and there's 8 weeks till May 24th, when we usually plant out in our area. So maybe we could talk about some vegetables that we would plant out and the varieties, and maybe you could tell us if we would plant them as seeds directly into the garden or would we plant plants. Maybe we could start with some plants that could be planted now. Maybe you could give us a few names of some plants that we would start in the house now.
Right, Eileen. Most of the animals, flowering animals, and quite a few of the vegetables should be started in the house now because, you know, with the shorter summer season here, those plants need to be started off earlier before they can be planted in the garden. And amongst the vegetables at the moment, ones that should be planted are the tomatoes, the peppers. If you haven't done so, pepper could have been a week earlier, but it's still all right. And people should plant them now and you know, keep them in the house in a light spot or under grow lights. It's one thing for people, most people that start vegetables in the house, they are not aware of that the light in the house is quite often too little for the not for germinating directly, but for growing after. So they should be always put in a bright spot, you know, good light, in other words. And otherwise they would end up with, you know, spindly seedlings.
So they wouldn't be very strong plants then?
No. If the light is poor, usually the seedlings are spindly and weak, and you know, once it is time to get outside, they you know, they could have a bigger chance of failing. So the light is an important thing. If you have a sun porch or good bright window, that's the place to use as an area for germinating your seeds.
Okay, George, maybe we can start with, I have a list here. Another thing I thought, we talked about peat pots last time, but we forgot to mention how long you should soak your peat pots.
That's right. That's
a very important, isn't it?
That's a very good question, because peat needs soaking for at least 40 minutes to take up the water. So the best thing is, if you use peat moss or peat pots, you should fill your pots up and then put them in a tray, preferable with water, and let them soak till the whole peat pot is good and wet. And then still you can put them on a soaker mat or on any wet media to keep them wet during the time, the germination period.
Yeah, because if they dry out, we usually lose the plants, don't we?
That's right, yeah. If they dry out, it's very hard for the roots to penetrate the pots as well, too. So that's another thing, that the plants will probably grow, but if the peat dries out to a point where it is very dry and hard, the roots won't penetrate the peat walls of the pot, and that will set them back once you plant them out in the garden.
Okay, George. How about asparagus?
Asparagus, the best way for planting asparagus is, if you're good and you have a greenhouse, you could start from seed yourself, but not necessarily. You can plant asparagus seed directly in the garden and grow them for 1 year. And then the 1 year roots you use, and the year after you dig a furrow about 6 inches deep, and about 6 inches, pardon me, that's a foot deep, and then about 8 inches wide, and you plant the roots on the bottom of the furrow. And then during the growing on season, every time the asparagus has grown 2 or 3 inches, you fill another inch of dirt until the furrow is filled by the end of the summer. So the asparagus you can see it in the garden, but you have to transplant them a year after.
Right.
the roots.
It takes 3 years usually to get asparagus,
That's
doesn't it?
right.
So
You seed them first in the seed bed, and then you nurse the plants through one summer, and then the next season you take the roots from the plants and you, as I said, you make a furrow and plant them at the bottom of the furrow and keep filling the furrow in, because the heads of the asperges should be about 6 to at least 6, if not more, inches under the soil to get nice long stalks on them.
And when would we plant out the roots? If we had
The roots, if you have the roots, the best time for planting is as soon as you can work the garden and the soil is on the dry side. Don't plant when the soil is still too mucky and too wet. That won't do good. Usually around the first week of April on sandy soils, people can usually cultivate and start planting them. The earlier, the better, in other words. But don't plant when the soil is too wet, because they will take off poorly then. And another thing about asperges is they should always be grown on a well-drained soil. They should never be in a wet, heavy clay soil. They should be in a sandy, light soil where there is good drainage.
So we should work our sand into our soil or something if we do have a heavy clay soil?
If your soil is very heavy, you should mix it up. If it is heavy clay soil, with coarse sand, and just melt it in at least a third part sand with your clay, and that will make a good soil. And also, if the soil is light, you could use a fair amount of compost or well-rotted manure, which will beef your soil up and gives the extra water-holding capacity.
And what about beans, George? When would we plant beans?
Beans we plant out in most areas here in the Nelson area at the third week of May, around May the 21st, or if you're higher up, maybe the first week of June would be more preferable.
And they're seeds that we would plant directly into the garden?
Yeah, those could be planted directly in the garden, although if people want them a little earlier and can afford the cost, they could put them in peat pots and grow them on, but then you shouldn't start them either till the first, the last week of April in the house, because you can't plant them out till the danger of frost is completely gone.
And they transplant very well, George, in peat pots?
In peat pots they are very good transplantable. Also corn too.
Corn?
For corn it's a good thing, because sometimes, with the cold spring the corn will come late, and with putting them in peat pots you can quite a bit advance your growing season, your earliness, so to say.
But again, you would only plant about a month prior to putting outside?
Yeah, otherwise the plant would be too big. Probably for corn 3 weeks would be more in the line.
And beets, George, would we transplant beets?
Excuse me. Could be done, but doesn't really need to, because beets are very fast growers, and if you take the early varieties, the small round ones, they can be seeded directly in the soil, and you can start picking them already, when they're very small, because they taste very good, and then thin them out and let the rest of them grow a little bit bigger. So beets, there is no really need for that, I would think, on going to all the trouble for peat pots. But if you like beets and you want them early, you can certainly do so.
And beets, you have to be very careful in planting them, because one beet seed produces 3 or 4 plants, doesn't it?
Yeah, some varieties that's true, and the bigger varieties I don't think that is always true, but in any case, once you seed them, you should thin them out to about a 2-inch or 3-inch space, depending on the variety, if it's a bigger or a smaller varieties. Always space them out after the seedlings have germinated. Just remove the extra seedlings and give them a space of up for the small round beets 2 inches, and maybe for the larger varieties as much as 4 inches. And seedlings you remove, you can replant if you wish so.
I see. All right, and broccoli and Brussels sprouts?
Those should be really started off in the house, yeah, because our season is early, and if you have a place where you can start them off, you can seed them direct in the garden too, but Usually for good performance you start them off about the 1st of April, which is about 2 weeks from now, in the house, and then directly once they have germinated, put them in a cool place, get them out of the house and put them maybe in a cold frame. You might even make a small cold frame in your garden and seed them directly in the cold frame in the garden because they take frost. But it will greatly help if you have them in a cold frame to advance the plants quite a bit. You can advance them that way by about a month.
Oh, I see. So they like the colder temperatures. They do
Yeah,
better
they
in the
should never
colder
be
temperatures.
grown at too warm a temperature. That's our problem here in the greenhouses. As soon as they have germinated, we have to bring them out in a cold, in the cold frame or the cold greenhouse outside. Otherwise, they're getting too lush and too tall, the plants for transplant.
I see. Okay, cabbage and cauliflower, that's almost in the same
That's
family?
all in the same family, and broccoli as well. You plant them all at the same time. That's usually you can start them off if you want in the house in, as I said, the 1st week of April.
And carrots, George, would we plant them outside or?
Yeah, carrots you seed directly in the ground. There's quite a few varieties. You can break your crop up by buying the early smaller varieties, and you can buy the bigger varieties, and that way you have two crops actually, one a little earlier and the other later. Although the early can be grown on too, but usually they do split or break open if they're getting too big.
I see. And usually we plant radishes with them. They're very slow to germinate, aren't they?
That's right.
Carrot
Carrots
seeds,
are very slow, so that's a good idea. And the older gardeners usually did that. They put carrots with radishes or even with a row of early spinach, and then remove the spinach and then have the carrots as a second crop coming in right after that. Not right after that, but quite a bit after that.
Okay, and celery. When would we start our celery?
Celery you should start now in the house, in either in small flats and put them in peat pots or packs and containers, and then you can plant them out in the garden as soon as the danger of frost is over. But here again, once they're up and transplanted, I wouldn't leave them in the seed flat too long. Transplant them as quickly as they can be handled, and then also move them in a cool place. Around 50 nights be nice for celery. If you have a sun porch or a cold frame which you can keep above freezing, they'd be much nicer and stronger plants to transplant.
Okay, and Swiss chard, George?
Swiss chard you seed direct in the garden. You can seed them now already the 1st week of April. If a garden can be rototilled and work because it's a cool crop, and if you seed them in the cool season, you get so much earlier and so much better product out of them. Because they can be cut all summer anyhow, but the first cuttings are usually the nicest when the weather is cool.
Yes, they're a cold weather crop.
That's a cold weather crop, that's right. So is spinach.
Spinach, and Chinese cabbage.
Same thing, you should plant them like cabbage now and then have them early, but also Chinese cabbage is quite easily, since it is very early, could be seeded directly in the garden without too much trouble because they come in. But if you can advance them by growing them in the house, you got them that much earlier too. The same way than other cabbage, you put them in peat pots or in plant packs and transplant them as soon as the danger of frost is over, if you keep them in the house that long. They could be handled the same than all the other cabbage. Put them in a cold frame and they grow much better, and they said they are frost hardy.
And collards and kale, that's in the same family as broccoli pretty well, isn't it?
Kale is in the same category than broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage. So kale might be planted a little later. It could be planted directly in the garden because it's a fast grower. But if you want to kale early, like some people like it for salads and stuff, they could be treated the same than your cabbage, and you got it that much earlier.
And corn we've mentioned. You could transplant. You could plant it in peat pots.
Yeah, corn you can do is excellent if you like corn. You advance it by at least 3 or 4 weeks if you put it in peat pots and plant them directly out first week of June. And you got sturdy big plants already, and they advance that much faster.
Right, especially in this area around, I know Salmo, Weimers, and up the valley there are spots where there's
Right. That's
frost
so true.
very late, so that would be a very good idea.
Yeah, for those people, it's really a time saver. They can, plant and have the corn in at the same time. Then
There's a chance it might ripen.
Yeah, well, in corn you should always pick the earliest varieties for here too, not necessarily the biggest. But the earlier varieties.
Maybe you can name a couple?
There is some real good ones in the early variety. I wrote some of them down here that we have used here ourselves. There is the Golden Bantam, which is the main crop. It's still early, but it's a big head. But then there is a very, very early one, and that's the Sunny V. That's Sunny as in sunny and V-E-E. And that's a very early one, and it still brings nice big cups on them. But it is about 12 to 14 days earlier than the Golden Bantam, which is also an early variety. Because the bigger varieties really, unless you put them in peat pots, are not so good for areas like Weimar, Salmo, and up in the valley where the where the spring is much later.
Right. Yeah.
Corn is the best on sandy soil because that will warm up first and it really grows faster. This property here where we are now, they used to bring the earliest corn in because it's the pure sand almost, its soil.
Right. So.
And with good cultivating and adding compost or manure, you can offset but sandy soil is a real good soil for corn.
Okay, dill. Once you get that into your garden, you can't seem to get rid of it, can you?
No, dill is
It comes up by itself.
It's like a weed. Once you have it, it's pretty hard to get rid of it if you want to. But dill, you can see it directly in the garden. Although, if you want it early again, you can seed it indoors and transplant it, and that way probably it's a little easier because you have more control over them. Comes planting time.
And cucumbers. When would we plant cucumbers?
Cucumbers, if you plant them in the house, you should not plant them till the first week of May, and never transplant them in most areas here, except for a very few low areas. Never transplant them till the first week of June or the second week of June, and they should be planted in peat pots since they are otherwise not transplantable. They either have to be planted in seed or in peat pots or such containers that you can slip them out without breaking the roots because they have tape roots. Peat pots are ideal for that, and you can, not the bigger varieties, but the dills could be seeded outside in the garden on hills. Put 3 seeds to a hill and about 2 to 3 foot apart, and but still, with a wet summer, you might not pick all the dills that you wanted. For cucumbers, I would say that it'd be better even the early varieties to start them off in the house at the first week of May and transplant them the first week of June.
Do you recommend using black plastic for any of the vine crops like that, George?
It's darn commercial, Eileen. You can buy those plant with plastic tents actually, and in the Okanagan and also in the Creston area I noticed that they have been using them for the commercial growers for earlier crops like tomatoes, and also for peppers, and I think that's the only 2 crops that I know of that they have been used for.
I see. And eggplant, George. When would we plant our eggplant?
The same than your cucumbers.
So and we should have started them
they're
as
all the same.
as plants in the house earlier, should we?
Yeah, I would say it helps, because I've tried to do it here in the garden myself, but I never came in time before frost, so I had to take them off. Some varieties, mind you, the earlier varieties will make it, but even then I find that maybe I'm a poor gardener, but that I can't harvest all of them.
Right, I usually just get blossoms on mine by the time the season's over, so. Garlic, George, when would we plant garlic?
Garlic you buy if you seed them, you know, you should seed them indoors and transplant the seedlings into packs, and when they are, the danger of frost is over, you can put them in the garden.
Okay. George, if I had some plants or some garlic bulbs that I bought from my supermarket, could I plant them out in the ground? Would that be all right?
Actually, it's a little early yet, because they wouldn't do nothing. They might rot if the soil is too cold or get sour on you. The best time to plant them is about the first week of May. The bulblets grow very fast anyhow, and if you put them in soil that's too cold, they just won't start rooting for you. So you wait always till the soil is warmed up. This is the same with onion sets.
Yes.
Never plant them in too early, because they don't like the cold soil, and even with onions there is a danger that the maggots might still attack them if they're not growing fast enough. And this is one thing about onions in this area. It's very hard to seed onions and in the garden directly, because usually the maggots get them before they take hold. The only cure for that is that I got that from an old gardener here in the area. He seeds radishes in between the onions, and they attract onion maggots, and the onion usually come through good. This is what he tells me. I haven't tried it myself,
Right.
but we always use the bulblets here. I grow them in the greenhouses, and then use the young plants or the bulbs.
Would we get a big Spanish onion if we planted seeds, or would it be just a scallion, a small green
It
onion?
would be a small one, unless you have a very good fall and a very good rich soil. It can be done. You can get an onion 2 to 3 inches if your soil is good and the summer is not overly short. You know, like there is good sunny weather, the onion will measure 2 to 3 inches.
So it all depends on the weather.
It depends much
The whole
on the weather.
garden depends on the weather.
That's the big gardener's dilemma, is the weather.
Is the weather.
That's true.
Kohlrabi, George, that's a member of the cabbage family, isn't it?
Right, yeah. It grows underground, but it is in the same family. But usually kohlrabi is very fast grower, so there is no need for really advancing them in the house unless you're so impatient to get it. But then you have to plant them pretty well in peat mods, pots, because they grow so fast that it's pretty hard to keep the plant in control. Unless you have a cold frame, you could put them in there, but I can't see any reason for preceding kohlrabi. They're very fast growers.
And leeks would be the same as garlic and onions. You wouldn't set them out?
Leeks, they need to be advanced. They need to be taken up in at least, they should be seeded around now. And then the little plants, they're very easily transplanters. When the plants are about 4 to 6 inches, if you seed them now, they could be 4 to 6 inches by planting time. And that's a must for leeks, because leeks will otherwise not make it. They will end up with very small, thin stalks, and leeks needs a very rich soil to it. Any poor soil, forget about leeks, because they are even worse than onions. They need good, rich soil to grow good.
I see. Lettuce, leaf lettuce and head lettuce?
Could be seeded in the house around April 15th. If you want them early, could be seeded directly in the garden too by then. Because if you seed them too early, usually the plants are getting drawn up too fast and they're too weak. So either way you can do it. You can seed them directly in the garden at April the 15th at most places, because lettuce will take a little bit frost.
And melons. Do we have any luck
Same
in this
like
area
cucumbers.
with melons, George?
The very small varieties, the watermelons, the big melons, I don't think, unless you have a cold frame, you could plant them in a cold frame and then, you know, when the weather gets hot, take the glass off, and then when they're not ripe and fall, you put your glass back on again. That's the way.
So then it's something that you have to babysit all
but,
summer. You're really keeping an eye on the weather, right?
Cantaloupes are probably the better ones, are the small cantaloupe melons. But the big melons, they need a little bit extra.
Okay, and peas, George. Would we plant our peas directly into the garden?
No need to
And when would we put them in?
You just see them in the rows, 2 or 3 to a plot, and then later on, if you have the climbing variety, you have to put your netting or stakes up. And if you want them very early, the only thing probably the sweet peas, the flowering peas, you would probably like to advance them in the house, put them in peat pots and plant them outside because, you know, the more flowers you get out of them. But that's the only form of peas that I would think you could need to force in the house.
And when would we plant them?
If you force them in the house, the sweet peas, you plant them when the danger of frost is over. And all peas, even the flowering peas, you can plant very early, like as soon as the ground is worked, maybe April 15th on. When the mind you, the soil has to be warmed up a little bit,
Right.
but they do take frost.
They do, eh?
Yeah.
The sweet peas, when would we plant them in the house? Now or a little
Sweet
later
peas,
on?
A little later on because they're fast growers. Probably the best date is around April 15th.
April 15th. And peppers? We would have started them already.
You would start them now. If you haven't started them, you start them now.
And
Same with tomatoes.
yeah, and potatoes. There's now seed potatoes.
There is, yeah.
Have you had any? Have you tried them, George?
The boys and me, we were decided to try them last year, but we have a space problem and we couldn't. Well, we could have started some of them if we could sacrifice some of the other crops, and we can't at the moment because our space is too limited. But we sure like to give it a trial, even on a small base.
Just to see how
True
they come.
really do, yeah.
Right,
how
yeah.
They really do.
And when would we put out our potatoes? We're going to cut up a tuber and put it out.
Your tubers, first week of May. Or if you're in a warm area, you can even do it in the last half or the last week of April, but not too early because frost will nip the young shoots off if you get a cold, really cold night in half May yet. So this is much dependent on the area. If you're low and safe, of course you can use the tents, the same for your tomatoes and peppers, and that way you can go away with a little bit earlier planting.
And radishes, we would just seed them in the rows
Just in the
all
rows.
through the year.
All through the summer, and you can start them in as early as April 15th when the soil is warmed up and somewhat dried off.
And squash, pumpkin squash.
Excuse me. Pumpkins and squash, the same than your cucumbers.
We'd start them in peat
You
pots.
start them in peat pots in the first week of May or the last week of April, depending on, but never put them outside till the danger of frost is totally over in your area, which I consider is usually the first week of June in most areas.
Right, and that's long enough to have a good crop.
Yeah,
long
for
enough
squash
season.
it is.
But yeah, tomatoes, George. What type of
Zucchini as well.
tomatoes? Oh, zucchini is under the squash.
Yeah.
And tomatoes. What variety do you recommend for this area?
The best varieties, the early varieties are the we got them here. The early varieties are the fantastic. It's a hybrid. It's a new one. It's probably the seed is a bit more expensive, but well worth it. It's a big tomato, but it still is very early. Then there is the Starfire. That we have been growing that here for about 10 years, and it's really a very early one. And also the hybrid bush beefsteak, which is a bigger one, but still considered to be an early tomato.
I see, George, we've run out of time. We always seem to run out of time. I would like to thank you for inviting us out, and maybe we can get together again and talk some more about some crops. All right, thank you and good
It's
night.
my pleasure. Thank you, Eileen.
Good night.
Good night.